This is the 72nd episode of the Effective Executive podcast and YouTube channel. And this week I wanted to talk about ESG for your organization and what it might mean to it. ESG, first of all, stands for Environment, Social, and Governance. And there's a whole slew of, I believe, BlackRock. There are different types of ETFs that are out there that want organizations in that ETF that promote ESG. And on the surface, it seems very benign, trying to do good stuff to better the world. But there are also some shortcomings associated with it, and I want to at least give you my view on what I see ESG does or does not do. And we're seeing all these things all over the place, and people have different meanings associated with it in their organizations, and it's something that, first of all, I think you need a set of standards or ground rules as to what it actually is, and some of these ETFs that organizations get involved with define it for them, which I never think is a very good idea. So let me define it. I'm going to pull from Investopedia. You're going to have different definitions of what ESG means to any individual organization and how they play it out. But environment is basically companies that put out carbon or sustainability reports. There's this whole move away from things that are bad for you, bad for the climate, all of that. Limits harmful pollutants and chemicals. Seeks to lower greenhouse gas emissions and uses renewable energy sources. Now, just a commentary on this. You see the folks saying, "Oh, no drilling," for oil, or they don't want you out, mining hard rock type of thing. In order for us to achieve some of these green initiatives, you are going to have drilling and hard rock drilling, because it requires things like silver. It requires things like copper in order to achieve it. So there's no binary choice here. You're going to have to live with the consequences of one or the other, because you need silver, you need copper, you need some of these industrial materials in order to achieve a green climate. And it still gets me that Germany dumping all of their nuclear plants when that's the cleanest energy you could possibly have. Now, people are worried about, problems that are going to happen if you have an earthquake and all those types of things. But I got to tell you, the advancements on nuclear energy are off the charts. So, it's not like 3 Mile Island from, the 70s. We've advanced since then. We know more. We have better ways of building these types of plants. So, and it's cleanest energy. You can't rely on wind all the time. You can't rely on the sun all the time, and you're going to run into shortages. And in the meantime, all these people running around with their electric cars think they're really awesome because they're saving the environment. But in order to charge your car, 60 to 70% of the energy that you're using are hydrocarbons. It takes oil, and it takes, all the coal, all the things that are bad in order to charge up your car today, because we don't have the infrastructure to be able to do it. And I'm speaking more for the United States because I've studied that a little bit more than maybe what's in other countries, other than knowing Germany's divesting itself of its nuclear power plants. So environment. I think it's all a good thing. I don't think anybody's against trying to improve the environment and moving those, but you gonna have to realize that there are trade-offs in these things, and just trying to make this binary choice between, oh, well, we could never drill or we could never have oil, and doing that because it messes up the environment. But you're going to need it in order to stay warm, in order to mine silver and copper and other precious metals. Think of your phone. I mean, the rare earth materials that are in your iPhone, or whatever type of phone that you have, they have to be mined in order for you to have those things. Now, if you want to start getting rid of your iPhones, then fine. So that's the environment. Social, companies that operate an ethical supply chain. They support rights for different groups, and encourages diversity. Has policies to protect against sexual misconduct, pays fair wages. Now, here's where things get really gray from my perspective. Is once we started to this social type of thing, we're beginning to we start to overreact, I guess maybe would be a good word to use. Overreacting to, the rights of minorities and those types of things. To me, a lot of this has to be fixed at the educational level. And it's not that way. And it's not just a matter of spending more money, but you're going to have to come up with better methods in order to train people. We can't have people coming out of high school for equity purposes to lower the standards of math so people can pass, because we got to all be the same, equally bad. There are people that excel in certain things. I was never a great athlete. I was a good athlete, but a great one, I wasn't. I just don't have that capacity. And there are people that are great athletes, and we don't want to slow them down. I enjoy watching them on TV all the time. But slowing down people because they're good at math or good at something for equity purposes is a non-starter for me, and should be for your organization. You just don't hire people for equity purposes to say, well, they didn't get the same chances I had. True, but you're going to have to work on the thing that caused that, which is, to me, education, family, things of that sort, culture. All of those types of things are better places to do that. In organizations, you can't lower the bar. It's just, competition is way too tough, and we need to focus in on the educational system. In my opinion, this is where it needs to happen. I'm all for fair wages, but what does that mean? I mean, that could mean a lot of things. Everybody screamed for $15 an hour. Now we're facing inflation because some of the people that are getting $15 an hour don't create that much value. So prices go up. So from a social standpoint, that's one of the things to look at. The other thing I want to make a comment on this is, whenever I read about ESG, you almost invariably start to talk about Gen Z and millennial generations, and they are all about the next thing, doing a greater good. And I'm all for doing a greater good, but when 70% of millennials believe and 60% of Gen Zers believe socialism is okay, that's where I draw the line. Most of our companies here, at least in the United States, have been built off of capitalism. The ability to find something of value in the market to sell to people. And, I've sat down with people or heard people talk about, oh no, collectivism is really good. Everybody gets the same type of thing, but you can go throughout history. New Harmony projects and things of that sort, they all failed because some people just didn't want to work, and I should get paid the same. Then other people worked really hard, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm working hard. This person's just sitting over here. What gives? And so these collectivist type of environments have always ended in failure And I've had the conversations with millennials and Gen Zers. Oh, they just aren't doing it right. I can't, you know. I'm sorry. Go ahead. See how far you get in doing those things. Just don't do it in the United States, please. Um, so so environment, social, governance. Companies that embrace diversity on their board, embraces corporate transparency, employs a CEO independent of the board chair. I get most of these from Investopedia just as a place to kind of level set what I'm talking about, even though a lot of the conversations that I've had with people or some of the things that I've read all have different definitions of what each of these three things do. And if you're part of an ETF, if your organization is, they fit into those things. And embracing diversity on the board, that's fine if the person's qualified. I mean, that's the bottom line. If they add value, from that perspective, then you don't just ever hire somebody just because you're trying to be diverse. And I think diversity has been embraced by, minority groups as opposed to, the thinking is minority groups as opposed to diversity of thinking. And that seems to be getting thrown out because, go through the whole vax unvax thing and, oh, well, the unvax people are just, they're crazy and we can't listen to them. We need to oppress them and those types of things. That's diversity of thinking, folks. I mean, that's at work. So if you don't like that, then it shouldn't go into other, and it's not a false equivalency either. I mean, that's what we see going on in some of these corporations. It's got to end for us to be able to move forward. And I think it is. I think all this is going to burn out relatively quickly because I think, some of the millennials and Gen Zers, as they start to realize how things actually operate, that capitalism is actually a very good thing. Some people think that this is a political statement. It's not a political statement, but it is a political statement. I mean, government crosses over, is inextricably tied to the way businesses are, and I don't think that should be. I think businesses should be, for the most part, left alone and coercing anyone. Now, so what are some of the things that lead me to think this way? Well, one primary one that I want to talk about is the creation of value versus non-value in your organizations. What creates value? The people that do the work, the people that see customers or put cable in at your home. They're the people that actually do things. And we seem to have way too much in organizations. Every time I go in and I do an inventory of, what's in an organization, you'll have 20% of the people that are doing value-adding activities for an organization, and 80% are all doing, stuff. And when you start to add ESG in there, and regulations, or any regulatory type of things, whether that's imposed by the government or self-regulation like ESG, then it costs money, it costs time, it costs focus of your organization, and the thing you need to be most focused on is creating value for your customers and realizing who does that, and the other 80% in a lot of these companies are not enabling the 20% to do what they need to do. And that should be what their job is. And I would include executives in that, as I've stated before in some of the other videos. You need to be the one creating to help enable those that create value in your organization and identify what those roles are that are in your organization. Otherwise, you're going to, every time we get something like ESG or something like that, it's good if it's a natural flow of things. It's forced on an organization. It's going to become a heavy weight for you to carry around. And now we got more compliance types of things that we're doing in our organization. All these things cost money, and you may be in good shape now, but today we have, the market's down. A lot of the technology companies are way down. As I'm recording this, and this is going to play out very poorly for those organizations that have added additional weight. And I believe that we're almost at the end of this because um, I, I think we're going to get a kick back up, and then the market's going to really collapse. And then after that, people aren't going to have time for the non-value added types of things. We're making jobs that don't create value in organizations. It has to be a natural flow. We have to understand the give and take of what nature gives us with regards to becoming green in organizations. And there's a give and take there, and there's consequences for not realizing what those give and takes are in an organization. So that's what I'm going to talk about this week. It's a little bit deeper subject. You know, from my standpoint, people tell me all the time I shouldn't make a stand on these types of things, that especially as a coach and an advisor to organizations. But it's who I am, and my job is to help people think through them. They may have a different perspective that they may follow, regardless of what I say, and they have every right to do that. It's your company, it's your organization. My job is to give you different thinking. So that's what I wanted to discuss this week, and I will catch you next week.